Hmm. It's a rough. It's always one of the rougher days of the year for me. This day, last night and today. Uh, in some cases, you're hoping your own players are going to get drafted. Last night I was as nervous as Josh Smith about the draft. I was talking to him, every 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, and because I didn't want him to be down in the dumps. I thought he might go as a sandwich pick, between the first and second rounds, and then he didn't. And I'm talking to him, trying to keep his chin up. Everything will work out. And finally, he gets drafted in the second round by the Yankees. And I'm excited for him. And then the last pick last night was one of our recruits, Jimmy Lewis. So all of a sudden, you lose, one of your prize pitching recruits. So you wake up today and you're wondering, okay, what's today going to hold? You're hoping Zach Hess is going to go early, Todd Peterson, Zach Watson, all those guys. And Zach Watson, first pick of the day. And I'm like, all right, we're off to a good start. And then, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and no Zach Hess, no Todd Peterson, and you're hurting for those kids. In the meantime, Christian Cairo arrives on campus with his mother and father. I sit down and visit with him for about an hour and a half. We talk about the future. We talk about the experience he's going to have here. I walk him down, show him a new weight room. Mom's crying because she's sending her son off to college. We have a nice visit. Send Christian over to see Kirsten DeFusco, our academic advisor, to set up his summer classes. And while he's sitting in there with her, he gets a phone call from the Cleveland Indians, and they offer him close to $1 million. And they get up and walk out and come by and tell me they're going to sign, and they leave, fly back to Tampa. And then you're obviously that knocks you for a loop. Then you're waiting again for Zach Hess to get drafted, and you're waiting for Todd Peterson to get drafted, and finally they do, and I'm happy about that. So it's just a roller coaster of emotions the whole day. It's not my favorite day of the year. I can tell you that. But after tomorrow, it'll all be over. We can get ready for Florida State.
Your bats really just kept going throughout this region line from the SEC tournament. So
Boy, you just jumped to another topic, didn't you? Thank you.
What do you guys need to do to just keep that rolling, just the offensive production you guys are putting out right now?
Well, you just can't think in the past. This weekend is a whole new weekend. Florida State, you could ask them that same question. They hit 375 in the Athens Regional and hit 10 home runs in 3 games. But they're going to be facing different pitchers than the Georgia pitchers, and we'll be facing different pitchers than we faced all weekend. I happen to have a lot of familiarity with the number 1 and number 2 starting pitchers for Florida State. They both played for the team that I coached last summer, the USA Collegiate National Team, and they're both outstanding young men and outstanding talents, and it's going to be a real challenge for our hitters. So we got to get back to work starting today, and unfortunately, we're not starting until Saturday, so we have an extra day of practice. I'd prefer to start on Friday, but we don't have any say-so in that. And we just got to get ready. We'll watch video on their pitchers. We'll get ready to go, and then it'll be time to get out there and compete.
Back to the draft, Maurice and Cade, a couple of names that
Yeah.
are going to be showing up on campus.
So I know Maurice turned down a lot of money. They made I don't know if you guys know that, if that's common knowledge. Is it knowledge? What do you know?
1.8.
Yeah. So, he turned down a lot of money, and stood by his commitment to come to LSU to play football and baseball. Obviously, we're excited about that. Cade Doty was another player that very easily could have been drafted, in the early rounds and got a significant signing bonus. But he told me on Sunday, not to give you too much private information, but he told me Sunday before our game against Southern Miss that that he was pricing himself out, that he gave him a figure that there was no way in the world they would meet, so that nobody would waste a pick on him, and that he was coming to school. So I told him, well, if we beat Southern Miss, I'll feel like we won both ends of a doubleheader today. So he's already on his way off to state of New York to play in a collegiate summer league, and excited about having both of those guys on campus.
It's preliminary, obviously, but how will it kind of look having Maurice play both sports?
In what way, Wilson? How will it
Like,
look?
how is he going to balance his time and that kind of thing?
Oh.
Will he actually be able to play baseball?
Yeah, well, he'll during the fall he'll be totally dedicated to football, and then when football season is over, then he's going to be dedicated to baseball. And we'll work out, the coaching staffs will work out how he balance spring football with baseball. At this point, I wouldn't know exactly how to do that. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about that, except for in the recruiting process. We assured Maurice that he would be able to play both sports and to do it, in a way that he can be excellent in both sports. But that we'll have plenty of time to work on that. That isn't something we specifically have addressed at this point.
Anyone else you're sweating out?
Yeah, there's still some players out there that I know that the catcher from up in the northern part of the state, Travinsky he's already turned down quite a lot of money. And we'll see. Hayden Travinsky is a real talented catcher, hitter, power hitter. Connor Phillips is a pitcher from Texas that don't know what's going to happen still with him. I still don't know if somebody might draft Matthew Beck. We'll see. Those are probably Saul Garza is another one I think that started to create some interest late in the game with the pro scouts. So, I talked to Saul yesterday about it all, and I think he's pretty much in his mind thinks and wants to come back to school. But if somebody were to blow him away with some kind of a signing bonus, it might change his mind. But outside of that, I think most of it we've passed through at this point.
How similar is the situation with Saul to the one that kind of Greg Dykman found himself in after his second year?
It's funny you asked that, James, because that's actually something that he and I talked quite a bit about, was Dykman's decision, as well as other guys that had a decision to make after their sophomore year. And some cases it worked out great, like in Dykman's case. In some other cases it didn't work out quite as well. So, those are decisions that every young man has to make on his own, and that's why I let them make them on their own. I give them advice, but I don't pressure them in any way. I tell them, if they were to come back, this is what I see happening, and then they have to make their own minds up. But it has a lot of very similar qualities to Greg Dykman's situation.
Obviously, this is a ways away, but if Zach decides to go pro, how does an outfield that will look like Daniel Cabrera, Maurice Hampton, and Giovanni DiGiacomo make you feel?
Well, we have other guys that we recruited as well. So, listen, the guys are going to have to win the jobs. And, man, we're not even done with this season yet, and you're already asking me about a lineup for next year. So that's jumping the gun just a little bit for me. I'm excited about having Mo. He's an outstanding athlete. He's an outstanding young man. He won't be out here for fall practice and playing the inter-squad scrimmages and those type of things, whereas the other guys in our recruiting class will. So he'll be a little bit behind them when he comes back to baseball, and if he's better than them, he'll play in front of them, and if he's not, he'll wait his turn until he gets his opportunity. So we'll deal with that after the season is over.
You lost some.
Saturday start. How do you approach the week? Do you want to get him a game, situational game?
I don't know that we will. I don't know that the weather is going to allow us to do much. We're going to have this practice tonight. I did this intentionally. I'm sorry if it inconvenienced you all, but I did this because I just knew several of our players were going to be distracted with the draft all day, as was the coaching staff, as you might imagine. And then, I started looking at the weather, and I thought getting tonight in was going to be really important, because I don't even know if we'll be on the field the rest of the week, the way the weather forecast is. So tomorrow we're going to have a really nice crawfish boil for the team at 4 o'clock, but I don't know if we're going to practice before that or after that. We're going to try to find a window when we can get on the field. And then Thursday, again, the weather forecast is so up in the air, so I can't look too far into the future. And I don't think we're going to be able to do anything live. I think it'll probably just be regular practice.
There's a lot of people that would say there's a lot of pressure on you, the head coach, all the time.
Yeah, so who would those people be?
But when you're going into a super regional and it's go to Omaha or you see it, how do you handle that personally? Just try to coach like another series?
Yeah, so it's what you want to happen. It's what you strive to have happen every year. You want to be 2 games away from going to Omaha. You want to be hosting a super regional. This is what's fun about being the coach at LSU. I don't try not Jacques, to think about the pressure, you know, and I've addressed this many times. I'm in my 13th year here. You know, somehow we've survived this long, and I hope I can finish my career, you know, on my own terms. You know, if you think about the pressure, it'll overwhelm you. I learned a lesson from my father when I was a young boy, and it stayed with me my entire life. And there's only one person you have to answer to, and that's the person you look at in the mirror every morning. So if you do the best you can, you can't do anything other than the best you can. And you know, my job performance is based upon the efforts of a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old kids. That's kind of a unique way to make a living, as you might imagine. So if we can pick the right ones, coach them the right way, inspire them, and then they go out and perform and well enough that we score more runs than the other team twice this weekend, and we get to go to Omaha, everybody thinks I did a good job. If I don't, if they don't do that, then I didn't do a good job. So, you know, listen, it comes down to one weekend, but this has been a process that we've been working at since the end of August. This is not a one weekend season. And if we're not successful this weekend, I'm not going to say, you know, geez, the kids didn't get the job done. They've won a lot of big games this year, you know, and to put us into this position. Now, we'd like to win, and we plan on winning, and we, you know, are confident we can get the job done. We're going to play a really outstanding team with a legendary coach, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and the place is going to be packed, and the intensity is going to be at a sky-high level. And just hope that we get the breaks.
What are you thinking about your rotation?
Honestly, Glenn, I'm telling you this is the truth. I mentioned it to AD yesterday. We didn't know when we were going to play this weekend. And I said, well, let's wait and see when we're going to play, and we'll talk about it again. And he and I have not talked about it at all today because we've been so distracted with the draft and, you know, the whole Christian Cairo situation on campus and then the disappointment when, you know, the way it developed. So I really don't know yet. I'm going to have to sit down with AD. Well, I'm sure we'll talk here probably in a little while and figure it out, but we wouldn't probably announce it until Friday anyway. So.
And your
The job that he's done this year.
Who's that?
AD, the job he's done, putting the pieces together.
You know, there's nobody in the world that works harder at what he does than Alan Dunn, I can tell you that. And, you know, this season has been especially challenging for him. Certainly it has been for the head coach as well, but when you're the pitching coach and you're responsible for the performance of the pitchers, and then you got all those injuries, you can imagine how frustrating that he has been, how frustrated he has been. But he hasn't stopped working. He hasn't stopped building up the confidence of the pitchers. And now we're starting to see the benefits of that. And I think we've pitched extremely well over the last portion of the season, and I expect that we'll continue to pitch very well against a really good hitting team, Florida State, who was, you know, Georgia's got a great pitching staff, and look what they did to Georgia's pitching staff. So, you know, it's going to be a tremendous challenge this weekend, but I think AD has these guys primed and ready, and hopefully, you know, they'll go out there and pitch as well as they possibly can.
What did you see from him when he was kind of working with the injured guys, kind of weathering that storm?
What did I see from?
AD.
He just stays the course, you know. AD's a very principled guy, probably the most principled person I've ever met in my life. And, you know, he believes in certain things, and he just stays the course. And he knows that eventually it's going to turn right. And I think he's right. I think he's great, and I've always sung his praises. I think we've got, you know, one of the best, if not the best, pitching coaches in the entire country. And, you know, we all believe in AD and his methods and what he does. And I think the proof has been in the pudding. You know, his first 6 years here, the ERAs were unbelievable. The last 2 years have been a little bit more of a struggle. Sometimes it's been because of injury. Last year we didn't have Walker, you know, and some other things happened. And this year, you know, I don't want to detail all the injuries we've had, of course, but I feel like we're getting back to where we need to be. It would still be nice to have A.J. Labus and Easton McMurray, a left-hander. It'd be nice to have Jaden Hill, but we don't, you know. And we're making the best that we can with the guys that are healthy.
In your mind, is Henry fully back now after that start last week, like in terms of pitch count, all that
yeah,
kind of stuff?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say I didn't feel it would take him long because he only missed 4 weeks. When I say only, compared to Jaden Hill, who missed 3 months. You know, he I thought the first start back against or in the SEC tournament, I thought he'd be a little bit rusty, but not so rusty he couldn't be competitive. He just had a tough time getting a feel for his breaking ball. But then with a full work week, I knew his breaking ball would be better. He's a strike throwing machine. He's got good stuff. I just thought he'd pitch like he did the other day. Now, if I'm not a big believer in a hard line pitch count, because sometimes the toughness of getting through an individual inning will tell you more than a total pitch count. And for a guy that throws as many strikes as he does, I'd like to see his pitch count be able to be lowered. I hate to see him throwing 85 or 95 pitches in 5 innings of work. That should get him through 7 innings of work. And if that can happen, then we got a really good starting pitcher.
Obviously, it doesn't affect the score, but obviously you're trying to advance. What's it like for you managing against a guy that's coaching in his last season and
Yeah.
this is it?
Well, I was surprised it took this long for somebody to ask a question about Mike, to be honest with you. I've really been kind of very vocal about Mike Martin with the media. I was last year or 2 years ago at the College World Series. Mike is the winningest coach in the history of our sport. I think he's got over 2,000 wins, 2,025 wins, something like that. He's been to Omaha 16 times, but he's never won the national championship. And some people seem to think that tarnishes his reputation in some way. I'm not one of those people. You have to win an awful lot of big games to win 2,000 games and to get to Omaha 16 times. And I know he's been in the finals a couple times and wasn't able to win. So when you get there, man, it takes a lot of luck and a lot of good fortune to go your way. My point is this. I think Mike Martin is on Mount Rushmore of college baseball coaches. And not only is he a fantastic coach, but he's a wonderful human being, and he's impacted an awful lot of lives. And he's been one of my heroes. I've had the good fortune of coaching, I think, 6 games, Bill, against him. And every time I've been able to be in the opposite dugout, I've looked at it as a great honor to be out there on the field coaching against him. And and this weekend I've already sent him a text message congratulating him on his regional win. And I told him again, it's going to be a tremendous honor for me to be on the field with you again. And, I just think the world of the guy. Now, with that said, I have a job to do. And my loyalty is to our players and our staff and our university and our state, my employer. And we're going to do everything we can do to put ourselves in the position to win these games. And if these are the last games in Mike's career, then, he's going to, he's going to wave goodbye to the sport, having done more than any other coach has ever done. And if he happens to beat us, then he'll go to Omaha and have a chance to win his first national championship. But, our goal is, to go out there and do the best we can this weekend and try to find a way to win 2 games. And not worry about who's in the other dugout too much.
What do you remember from those 2 games against them in 2017?
Remember, they were really, really tough games. They had us beat in the first one. And we had a good rally. Cole Freeman got on, and then Duplantis got a big base hit. And, I thought Cole was going to go first to third on the base hit, but he decided to stop at second. And then the right fielder, because he was worried about Cole's speed, looked up too early and the ball got past him. So Cole hustled to third, and Antoine hustled to second. When the outfielder threw the ball to second base, it got away from the shortstop, and then I call it the Freeman mad dash for the plate. And we were able to tie the game, and then Greg Deichmann came through against their left-handed relief pitcher to get a base hit to give us the lead. And I can still visualize that great Zach Hess curveball striking out Busby to end the game. And then when we played him in an elimination game, Jake Slaughter hit a big 3-run homer. I know Zach Watson got a big clutch double to drive in a run late in the game. And Jared Poche pitched marvelously. And we were able to beat them a second time. But they were both extremely hard-fought, tough games to win, which is exactly the way that it will be this weekend. Anytime you play Florida State, that's how it is.
Does it help having guys like Watson and Duplantis who had big moments in those games?
I would hope so. Yeah, when you have experienced players that have been in big games, especially against an opponent that they've played before, I think it takes away a little bit of the nerves. But they still have to go out and do it. And I'm telling you, Drew Parrish, their number 1 starter, and and C.J. Van Eyck, their number 2 starter, I can tell you are both outstanding, and they've got good, lots of other good arms. So, you know, that's what happened in the past is not going to help them, you know, get hits or do things in this game. They just got to be focused and go out there and do it.
Do you think it's interesting how many of these kids you've seen again after coaching them last season? I mean, it seems like every week you're
Doesn't
talking
it seem
about
that way?
somebody.
Golly. And we had pretty good luck with most of them. You know, I think the only ones that have a little bit of an upper hand on us are the 2 at Arkansas. They beat us 2 out of 3. But we beat Andrew Vaughn 2 out of 3 with Cal. We beat Zach Thompson and won 3 out of 3 against Kentucky. Matt Wallner with Southern Miss. Of course, we didn't play Torkelson's team, Arizona State, but you know they didn't win the regional. Who else? Texas A&M. We won 2 out of 3. I had Braden Shoemaker and John Daxaxis. I'll tell you, that was an amazing experience that I had for me personally. As much as I love being at LSU and I love being at Notre Dame and Air Force and St. Thomas, to put that USA uniform on was like a highlight of your life. And then we had such great kids. I mean, not only talented, gosh, I'm watching the first round last night. I'm like, wow, I coached him. Wow, I coached him. You know, Adley Rushman and I were texting yesterday morning, and he was the first pick. Andrew Vaughn and I were texting yesterday morning. He's the 3rd pick. You know, and Braden Shoemaker sent me a really beautiful text message, and he goes in the first round. You know, so I have a relationship with all of those guys as well. Drew Parrish, when my father passed away, sent me a very heartwarming text message. You know, you don't forget those kids. They're great. They're great human beings and talented baseball players. But like I said, when you get to this weekend, you got a job to do, and that's got to take priority. If I was coaching against my best friend, you know, in the other dugout, you still have a job to do. You got to forget about who you're coaching against.
We talked about it a little bit before, but just revisiting 17 years ago, one of the highlights of your career was beating Florida State, number 1 in the country, 60 wins and all that.
Wow, Jacques. Yeah, that was when I was coaching at Notre Dame. And we qualified for the World Series by beating Florida State in Tallahassee. It was the first time Notre Dame had been to the World Series in 45 years. So we were a decided underdog going down there. They were 60-8, or no, I'm sorry, they were 59-8 when we played them, and we're on a 25-game winning streak. And we beat them the opening game. Then we got rained out. We lost a close game in Game 3, or the 3rd day, and then in the final day we beat them 3-1 to go to Omaha. And so Florida State ended that season 60-10, and felt hollow because they didn't get to Omaha. And I know Mike has told me many times that was maybe the worst losses he's ever dealt with. And 10 years later, I felt the same pain, you know, when Stony Brook came here and beat us. So, you know, this game is a very humbling game. You can have a great day or a great weekend, and then, you know, the shoe can be on the other foot very easily.
Coach, it's the first super regional with LSU and Florida State, and y'all are 2 storied programs,
Yeah.
and it's here in Baton Rouge. Just kind of, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me because I'm a big college baseball fan, and I'm a big college baseball historian. And, you know, the 2 programs, Florida State and LSU, have been 2 of the blue bloods of college baseball for so many years. And it's ironic, we got to play them in the World Series last year, but we had not played them in my time here outside of that. I think Skip might have played them in what they used to call the Winn-Dixie Classic in the Superdome or something. He might have played them once or twice. I don't remember. But, you know, I'd love to play other great universities. I was kind of sad we didn't get to play at Arizona State this past weekend, in all honesty. Not that you root for anybody, you know, in other games, but I was looking forward to the excitement that would bring. You know, now Florida State's coming in with a great coach and great history in their program. I like to think LSU has a little bit of history as well. So it's going to be exciting, and I just hope that the weather cooperates so we can have great baseball.
3 of the 16 are 3 seeds against
Three seeds? Who are the other 2?
who were they? Duke and
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah.
I mean, the pair
Well,
against
you know,
again.
I've never placed much stock in the seeding. It's such a subjective thing, and it doesn't buy you any advantage when you're a higher seed, and it doesn't give you any disadvantage when you're a lower seed. The only advantage, I guess, if you can perceive it as an advantage, is that if we go 3 games, we'll be the home team in game 3. They used to flip a coin for that. Now they just have the higher seeded team as the home team in game 3. And of course, getting to play in your own ballpark is certainly an advantage. But once the first pitch is made, man, you got to hit, and you got to make the plays, you got to make the pitches, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fun.